High noon, Jones and Keefe, WEEI. We were just breaking down the worst sports trades in Boston since the year 2000. So 25 years of data. Joe Milton made the cut. The Joe Milton trade made the cut. Barely, but it's on there. Yep. So you can seek that out at Jones and Keefe on Twitter and Instagram. If you missed the segment, it's on the Odyssey app. AUDACY. Get it on your phone. Free, easy. Take it with you wherever you go. You can also seek it out on YouTube. Just subscribe to WEEI. And for more on this, joining us, as he does every Tuesday at high noon on a Tom E. Tuesday, Tom E. Curran, NBC Sports Boston. Tommy Curran, how are we doing this week?
Tremendous. How are you? You guys getting giddy for the draft? It's just 16 days away.
We are very giddy. Our counter is not working right now, but thank you for updating us on the 16 days away from the draft. Let's start with Joe Milton, because we are excited for the draft, and we'll get to it. Let's start with the Joe Milton trade. We didn't like it. Why did the Patriots do it?
They believed that Joe Milton had aspirations of being a starter, and healthy competition is terrific. They just weren't sure and positive that it was going to be the most healthy competition. Healthy competition is, hey, the other guys are going to support each other and plow forward. And I think Joe has a regard for his ability relative to Drake May that he thought, you know what, I'm pretty friggin' good too here. I'm not even sure he's better than me. So how happy and helpful and supportive Joe Milton may have been was in somewhat doubt. So as a result, he said, you know what, let's get Joe to a place where he can feel more comfortable. And, you know, he's not necessarily going to compete for the starter job, but they want to make the Patriots do the situation where there's as few distractions as possible for Drake May. They set out to do that at wide receiver. They eventually lowered the bar a little bit and moved to Stephon Diggs, who they're comfortable with, but was not their first choice. And I think in the quarterback room, they just want all oars in the water, pulling in the same direction, and they want everyone to know what their roles are, their established roles, and Drake's is as the starter.
Now, were there issues during the season last year with Joe Milton?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't remember hearing anything.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't either. But, you know, from what I've gathered is there was certainly a sentiment, and you kind of saw that a little bit in Joe Milton's comments with the Cowboys today. You can find them, and they were on Pro Football Talk. I don't have them.
No, I have it in front of me. You want me to read it, Tom? I have it.
Yeah, just for the folks out there, he's just very happy. It seems to be moved on to a different place.
He said about Dak anyway is the one I highlighted. Maybe you're talking of a different comment, but he said it's great. He's a great person, which I was like interesting. It's my second time meeting him, so being around, I found it interesting. You're the one who brought up the comment. I found it interesting.
One great person on the planet.
It's great. He's a great person. I don't know. Maybe if you asked him about Drake May, he wouldn't say the same thing. I'm just curious. It's my second time meeting him, so being around him, I feel the great energy he brings.
Ooh, good energy.
And I'm just willing to look forward and learn from him and really compete, he did say in those comments. Is that the comment you were talking about, Tom?
Competitor.
There were a number of them. He just sounded very happy that he was going to be in that atmosphere. And look, you know, Joe Milton is older than Drake May. Is it by a significant amount, right? Keefe, he's usually a big birthday guy.
Milton's 25, 26.
All of these
He's not young.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he played well. He sat there and bided his time behind Drake May, and he certainly improved. Milton did throughout the course of the season. So when he performed, even though it was against, you know, batting practice pitching at the end of the season, he's probably sitting there saying, look, I just have one of the highest ratings of it. I threw a football harder than anybody else except for one person in all recorded pro football history since they started doing guns on it. So look at me.
Yeah.
And I have to come back here and compete with Josh Dobbs. So just clear the decks. I think that was the idea.
I think it's interesting, though, because we obviously celebrate, you know, Tom Brady being here as a 6th-round pick himself, also a Michigan guy, and thinking he could beat out Drew Bledsoe, who was way more established than Drake May.
Yeah, way more established. But by that point, he had established that he was a stiff.
Okay, well,
I mean,
but still, I mean, they gave him a ton of money though.
His ass kicked up. Yeah. Can I just finish this?
Well, I wasn't really finished when I was my question. You just sort of jumped in yourself.
Yeah, but I got a short amount of time. You got 4 hours.
I know.
True.
That is a good point.
Yeah,
I hadn't thought of that.
We have 5 days.
He was horrendous in 2000. He was horrendous in 2000. He got his ass kicked up and down the field during the 2001 training camp. End of story. I mean, he was ripe for the picking.
Okay, but I also watched the Dynasty, as I'm sure you did, and all those guys like Teddy Bruschi and others that were talking about it, they were like, this guy thinks he's beating out Bledsoe? Like, what is he, nuts? And that was embraced, and obviously he became the greatest quarterback of all time. I just think it's odd that you want your backups to be competitive, but also like, hey, don't really try to get the job. It's not your job. Seems like a strange mentality to me.
Unless you're a really crappy team and you've already established that you've been the quarterback, as Bledsoe was during a decline that went from the Super Bowl to a 5-11 2000 season, and as Ernie Adams said, it's like an elk. What did he say?
Like wildebeest.
Yeah,
a wildebeest.
Yeah,
hyenas.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he was right for the picking. Drake May is not necessarily right for the picking, and even if he is, you don't know that yet. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that Joe. Look, I'm not slandering Joe Milton here. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying the logic behind it was to clear the decks for Drake May and have few distractions and a positive atmosphere because he has enough crap to deal with, I think, on the field.
So clearing the decks, right? And maybe it says something about Vrabel. Maybe it says something about May. Maybe it says something about Milton. To me, if Milton thinks he's the starter, that my personal opinion, the Pats may disagree, is not that egregious. A lot of guys want to start. I don't think that's unique. What would be threatening to Drake May in the locker room and why you might need to clear the decks is other guys viewed Milton as not that far away from Drake May. There wasn't a big gap, or Milton could close the gap, or they like what they saw, or whatever. Was that a fear from the Patriots that players in the room viewed Milton as more of a threat to May?
I would be speculating because that's not. I would have to go to a point where I'd be speculating, but I think that anytime you have an
let's speculate.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I'll speculate that it's not the Patriots' logic, but I think in any situation, if you have two employees doing the same job and the other guy thinks he should be doing the job instead of the guy who's doing the job, he's going to grumble to teammates or coworkers, and those coworkers might be receptive to his input. They might block it out, but he's probably going to skip on to the next guy and say, I should probably see that. That was just an ass throw. I mean, you get a kid at St. Anselm to do that. I mean, come on, what are we doing here? So, to me, I did tell a buddy of mine I throw out to St. Anselm.
Yeah, it was a good plug. Good St. A's drop. Yeah.
So, I think that there is the possibility of factions developing, and is that productive? Is that what you're looking for? Look again. Joe Milton was fine. If Joe Milton is a sixth-round pick who thinks he's better than Drake May, and Drake May had a pretty good rookie season, is not what you're looking for. So that's all I can tell you is that's what the logic is behind it.
So I would almost,
whether we agree or disagree.
Yeah, sure. And I think I would understand it a little bit more if they went into the season with just Drake May and Josh Dobbs, but with the draft now 16 days away, if they take a guy in like the 5th round and they take like Riley Leonard, what does that say? Because I don't know. He just came off a really successful season. Maybe he thinks he could be the starter. Like, would they go into? You think they'll go into the draft and grab a guy?
There I go. I interrupted your ass again.
All good.
I think that says that. Hey, Elliot, watch this. This is how you draft a backup quarterback. This is how you draft a developmental quarterback. See? And then when we draft Riley Leonard, we're going to say, Riley, you understand that guy's better than you? And as far as we're concerned, he's going to be the starter until he poops down his leg 13 times in a row. Okay? So just try and learn from him.
Tommy Curran, NBC Sports Boston. You can check him out on WEEI afternoons on Thursdays, all over NBC Sports Boston, print, TV, the whole thing. And, of course, at high noon every Tuesday here on Jones and Keefe. It's Tommy Tuesday. Speaking of the draft, is the Travis Hunter dream dead? It seems like a lot of people now believe he's going to Cleveland. Do you think that dream is dead? And how interested would the Patriots be even if he were there?
That's a great question. It's something that I'm starting to try and prod today on Quick Slants. And with my soon-to-be submitted poll on the platform X, I'm trying to prod Patriots fans to the idea that maybe they're not going to get the pony, okay? But maybe you can get a really nice bicycle instead, because I do think that you start to anticipate that Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, who are far and away the two best players on everybody's big board, are going to be gone by the time the Patriots pick. So with that said, the Patriots need to be prepared for that. Would they take Travis Hunter if he was there? I presume he would, because he's pretty much everybody's number one consensus big board guy. If you look at every analyst, everybody, and everybody's looking at each other's paper on this crap anyway, but it's Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. So it's less than 50%, I would say, that he's going to sit there. But that means that if those two guys go as what qualifies as elite players in this year's draft, and the only two elite players, and Cam Ward goes 1, and he's probably around 20 on most people's big boards, and Shedeur Sanders isn't even in anyone's top 20 on the big board, you're still going to get the third best player in the draft. And a lot of them play positions that the Patriots need. So it's not worth stomping upstairs on Christmas morning if you don't get those two.
Obviously, I would take Abdul Carter if he's there at 4, if he somehow falls to 4. But the way this offseason has gone, I mean, don't they almost have to take an offensive player with their first pick? It just seems like they have not done nearly enough to help Drake May, other than get rid of his competition.
Yes, I agree. It would be, I mean, if you're sitting there, it'll be hard if you're sitting there looking at, for instance, to play the game. All right, do we take Abdul Carter, who everyone says is the first or second best player in this draft, or Will Campbell, who's anywhere between the 6th and the 11th best player in the draft? Or do we take Ashton Ginty, who's a lot of people's idea of the 4th best player in the draft, or even the 3rd? Or Tyler Warren, who can be anywhere from 4 through 12. Those are some of the best players in the draft. Mason Graham. Do you like the idea? I mentioned this to Phil the other day. You think of all these different players. You like the idea of watching Jonathan and Robert strolling across the lawn with Mason Graham on the way to his media picture in the middle of the field?
No, he might be a good player, but that is not a sexy pick. No.
You could have Tyler Warren with his flowing hair, or big old strapping 6'5", 312 Will Campbell. Then you end up with Mason Graham plodding along. So to me, but they're going to get a good player.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly the hope, and they should at that pick. I'm curious.
As long as Elliott's not there.
Well, as you said the other day, he's basically already working at Bass Pro, so I don't think we have to worry about that. You were absolutely right about that, Curran. I was fearful he would have a lot of say.
No.
I think the Milton trade, among other things, proves that he has no say, so I would bend the knee there. When it comes to Travis Hunter, what have you heard about how teams are going to utilize him at the next level? Is he viewed as a corner? Is he viewed as a wide receiver? Is anybody going to give him a chance to play both ways? And why wouldn't teams give him a chance to play both ways?
From what I gathered at the Combine and talking to people and talking to the Patriots specifically, I think every single team will give him a chance to play both ways. I think that having a full plate of both, running 700, 600-plus snaps on both sides of the ball as he did last year at Colorado, I would be dubious that any team is going to allow him to do that at the beginning. It might be a package on one side or the other, depending upon where he's more needed. I mean, he's the Bednarik winner, and he's the Bolitnikov winner for both the top cornerback and the top wide receiver. So you're getting that on either side of the ball. Where do you need him? The Patriots obviously need him at wideout more than they need him at corner. So let's figure out if he can play there, and then as the season goes along, if he proves that he can do some things, we'll put a little cornerback on his plate, maybe in some dime packages or slot corner or whatever. But I don't think any team's going to allow him or want him in this first year to be fully both ways out of the chute. You guys must agree with that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see him try to do it as much as possible, but I think it would be pretty difficult to do that. And just the way the Patriots roster is set up, you're probably going to need him a lot more on offense. So, yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, I would I would let him do it until he proves that,
I want to
he
see
can't.
it.
You know what I mean? Like, I would give him as much as he could handle, and if it's too much, then I would scale it back. I mean, that would be my personal approach. I'm sure you've heard his answer to SiriusXM, and it's just a player answering a question, but, like, I'm sure you've heard it. He absolutely wants to do it. He went to Jackson State, for God's sakes, because that was the only place that was going to give him the opportunity to do it. So I wouldn't take that away before he proves he can't do it, personally.
Yeah, and I have yet to hear anybody say that he is not sincere and diligent. And his quote to Sirius, if we're talking about the same one, where he said this 24 hours in a day, I'm going to sleep for 8. I got 16 hours to study. I mean, it seems like that's not just paying lip service, and he's going to be playing Call of Duty for 11 of them.
That's kind of
really is consumed by football. So you can't miss with Hunter. You can't really miss with Carter, but you also can't miss, and you guys are going to laugh, you can't miss with Will Campbell.
You love Will Campbell, yeah.
I just think the notion that you're going to get 0 from him if he's a tackle is cuckoo. He might not be Orlando Pace, but he certainly can be Matt Light.
Yeah, I like him more than Jones does. I would take. I'm still holding out hope for 2 quarterbacks getting picked ahead of you, and you have the choice of Hunter or Carter. That's what I'm hoping for, but I would still take Campbell. Last week, Curran, we had both the coordinators speak. Anything jump out to you from Terrell Williams or Josh McDaniels?
More so with McDaniels, and I think we haven't yet. Not to correct you, but just, we get Williams a little later. I think we got Springer last week.
Oh, that's right. It was Springer. My bad. Yeah.
But with McDaniels, nothing really that I didn't expect to hear. You know, I learned a lot in the off season. I do think that it was interesting to hear his comments, and then some piggybacking comments from Greg Bedard on BST that night, Boston Sports Tonight. Greg Bedard from Boston Sports Journal just saying, look, he thinks that McDaniel's package of plays and mindset going into 2025 is going to be fascinating to watch because it could be revolutionary. And he is, in my mind, even though he's, mid-40s now, he's a very, 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 very innovative guy. And I think that Drake May could be his best possibility to be his most innovative. He had the greatest quarterback of all time at his disposal. But Tom was a pocket quarterback that you could just, give anything to and he'd figure it out. With Drake May, it really is a blank slate with a dual threat quarterback who's got a weapon for an arm and an unbelievable amount of competitiveness and mental and physical resilience. So to me, it's going to be real. I'm excited as well to see what he's going to dust off for him.
One last one quick, and I'm hearing you talk about Abdul Carter as a can't miss guy with Hunter, which I would agree. Those are the two, true blue chippers in this draft. But if Hunter is rising and Ward's going 1, maybe that means Carter to a degree is falling. Have you heard anything on the medical front with Abdul Carter? Like, is there a reason he might be, quote unquote, dropping, if you will, from a guy who was looked at as the no-brainer number 1 pick a month or so ago?
No, and I don't. I think that really this is too much time on our hands kind of stuff with Carter. I wouldn't at all think of that as he's a faller. It's just, okay, now that it's established that Ward is 1, and now that I think people are looking at more and more that the Giants are saying, the Browns are saying, we'll just take Hunter. We can't bring Shedeur Sanders in as an X factor if he's the 20th best player in the draft at best. And then you're looking at the reason that Carter could be dropping, and you said real quick, and this isn't real quick. Carter could be dropping isn't really based on the fact that he stinks or injured. It's that, okay, the Giants are at 3 and they have Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns, and both of them are either a top 5 pick or a $30 million a year player. Are you really going to do that with Hunter? So I think it's more tied to that than concerns about, Carter going as a defensive end to there.
All right. He's Tommy Curran. You can check. No, all good. That's good. So I was curious because I just, again, falling is a relative term, but I just wonder for a guy who, wasn't going to be able to get in a full off season where he's at medically. You can check out Curran's latest up at NBC Sports Boston on the Patriots needing to reprove themselves at voluntary OTAs. Quick slants tonight, WEEI afternoons on Thursdays, and, of course, every Tuesday at high noon on a Tommy Tuesday. Tom, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Tommy Curran joining us here as he does every Tuesday here on Jones and Keefe.